said that when you go to chemistry school, you became more alert. You may wake up, your spirit wake up, and you became a more human being. That's your character is built in a school. Classical studies, we must know Medew Netcher. You see, maybe in the future we need to know some heretic too. We need to know Medew Netcher. Achievement in Kemet for me is education. The way they think, they build, and they practice their education is very unique in history. Without education, I believe there will be no Kemet.
ATM Hotep. ATM Hotep. Hopefully everyone. I'm trying to see what is going on here. All right, there we go. There we go. ATM Hotep. Peace to everybody. So welcome and peace. It's your brother Wujau, and you're tuned into the Sesh Mighty Metal Netcher YouTube channel, aka the Sesh channel. And so just want to do a live stream as an after party to the after party of an earlier video live stream that Asar, the brother Asar Motep, did. And his video was originally entitled "To Reconstruct Egyptian or Not Before Comparing Languages." And so I was able to tune in and catch most of it. I wasn't able to engage with the chat or anything like that too much. Even on the after party, I was listening in, but I couldn't engage. So just wanted to have a quick after party of the after party. You know how we like to have parties around here. So this discussion will probably only make sense to you if you had a chance to check out Asar's original video presentation or the after party that he already had. So again, I just want to do an after party of the after party because it was very interesting. I wasn't able to get on the platform on the panel during his after party, although I would have liked to, but I wasn't able to do so. So just want to give some commentary about the the presentation. So again, he did a presentation entitled "To Reconstruct Egyptian or Not Before Comparing Languages." And I definitely advise you to go back and watch it if you haven't already seen it. But to kind of summarize in my own way the presentation that he gave, it was involving just that. Whether, in this case, the ancient Egyptian language should be reconstructed first before comparing languages. Should that be done or not? And in his presentation, he gave some context to the to why he was doing the presentation, and it's basically stems from a claim that's been made by Dr. Obadele Kambone, who is a linguist out of Ghana now, and he has actually a degree in linguistics, among a few other things. And Asar, put his credentials into his presentation and so forth. So you want to seek that out, check that out. But essentially, the argument is that you have to internally reconstruct ancient Egyptian before doing a comparative method between Egyptian and other languages. And that stance and that claim has not been supported anywhere else in the field of historical comparative linguistics. And so Asar gave a presentation, and this wasn't the first time that Asar gave or discussed this, but today he just happened to do it, and I guess in isolation. But he gave, I believe, 5 citations, 5 resources that emphasize the fact that it's not necessary to reconstruct before doing comparative work and so on and so forth. So he gave, he read from those sources, shared them on the screen, and so on and so forth. And now this is not a new argument. This is something that's been said for quite some time. I'm familiar with the argument from Dr. Kambone as well myself. And when I first heard of the stance and argument, I immediately saw it as how I want to call it, as a misunderstanding of the way that languages are mapped to a writing system, and then how that writing system can be transliterated using other orthographic platforms of characters, graphemes. So, for example, we all know that the ancient Egyptian language was written in a script that we like to call Sesh, Medew, Netcher, but for the most part, a lot of people will refer to as hieroglyphic. Okay? Now, the hieroglyphic writing system, the script itself, is pictographic in nature. So all of its graphemes, or graphs, I should say, are pictures of something, whether it's flora, fauna, or man-made objects known and or created by the ancient Egyptians themselves. Those things make up the graphs of the hieroglyphic writing system. Now, in order for you and I to discuss the language, to correspond with each other about the language, and so on and so forth, we're not going to sit here and redraw all of the glyphs every time we want to mention an ancient Egyptian word, etc., etc. So what scholars have done early in the study of ancient Egypt, in early Egyptology, they came up with a transliteration system mapping the glyphs to the Latin orthographic script. Okay? Now, in today's time, modern times, there's 2 major transliteration systems. And I've done many presentations on this. It's you could check out our archives, and we have a lot of presentations on this. Even on our website, sebleuniversity.com, there's a quick lesson and a quiz for these very same issues. So this is definitely not new. I mean, when I say we've done many presentations on this, this expands years at this point. We also have a book that's published with that touches on this information when we addressed the accusation that the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphic writing system has never been deciphered. So we addressed all of this. We had to, we have to break this stuff down and explain it. So we've put in some man hours in talking about this and dealing with this. So when I was first became aware of Cambone's arguments, I saw them as nonsensical. It didn't make any sense. And for him to be a linguist and have a degree in linguistics on top of being a linguist, I thought that was pretty strange from way back when I first heard and saw his stance on that. Up until today, he still has the same stance, and where people are now, addressing that stance more and more people that are learning about this are now capable of, having a conversation about it. So it comes up from time to time, and today was another one of those times. So Asar addressed it in earlier presentation. So, but the argument is about the reconstructions of Egyptian before comparing, and it focuses on the script really, and so in listening to the presentation earlier today, Asar went into the IPA, which stands for the International Phonetic Alphabet, that was created by the IPA, which in that case stands for the International Phonetic Association, both being abbreviated IPA. These are symbols that are used to represent all of the sounds, ideally all of the sounds in the known languages around the world. And so, which differs from the orthographic inventory of writing systems that we may have. All right, so they differ. They're not the same. The IPA alphabetic inventory is different than any given script that's used for any particular language. All right, so there's a whole lot more, characters and diacritic marks, dots and slashes and things like that. This and all of these different markings, they're called diacritic marks. Specifically, they have names themselves, and so it's a combination of characters that we're familiar with, and then these markings that we may or may not be familiar with, that makes up the IPA alphabetic characters, the whole system. But those represent sounds, and you may be more familiar with those symbols when you look in dictionaries. When dictionaries are trying to tell you how something is pronounced, they use the phonetic alphabet, and they put the pronunciation in either square brackets that represent phones, which is how something sounds, the surface sound, actually what your ear is hearing, or they put it in slashes, which represents phonemes, okay, which are more on an abstract level of sound. So you have phones and phonemes, and so you have to be familiar with the difference between phones, phonemes, graphs, and graphemes, and their relationships when they're mapped to one another to form a writing system. You have to be familiar with all of these things to really understand and follow along with the conversations. And so today, why I'm having this little after party of the after party discussion is because there was somebody in the chat, and I forgot their username in the chat, but he was able to come on to the panel and speak on Asar's panel earlier. a little while ago, and I wasn't able to get on the panel, but I could hear the conversation. I was listening in the conversation, and so I'm not sure who all here is who's watching, who's tuned in now. And by the way, I'm being rude. Let me take a moment, take some time out. I'm up here running my mouth. Um, didn't even introduce my co-host or give shout outs to anybody in the chat, anything, man. Would y'all see? I haven't been live in so long. I done lost my manners. So excuse me. I apologize for my misbehavior and my and I've done left my manners in the trash. So first and foremost, let me introduce my co-host, Sanet Imiket Aku Kinshai Akinyi, to the panel and open the mic up and you have any opening anything.
Hotefu. Hopefully, I can be hard. Yeah. Well, I don't think you lost your manners. I think you probably. I didn't get to actually listen to the the whole of both shows by Asar, but just a little bit. That kind of threw me off. So I see how you kind of that kind of got messed up with the stuff that was going on that, especially with our panelists over there, that would get you a little confused. Because yeah, that was very odd, and I was busy while you were talking. I was just sharing some of the links. That these are not all of them, just some that I could get from the top of my head. The stuff that we've done, whether it's on Sabre University or just Sesh, Netcher, our archive, the YouTube links. And we have also, these topics on Facebook, our group page, I believe, and there's just, these are just stuff that, we've done a lot, where it's actually shocking when people can actually sit and try to have discussions and not even understand this kind of basic stuff that actually is required, to have this particular discussion. But yeah, I was sharing those while you were talking. So, but I'll let you go ahead and continue doing that.
Okay, okay. So let me just give some shout outs to anyone who's tuned in. I try to engage the chat as much as I can because I'm not doing a presentation, right now. And normally when I do a presentation or share my screen, I'm not able to engage the chat. But I'm all for engagement. I like the dialogue. I like the interactive dialogue, and I think that more progress can be made when people participate. So shout out to any Heret Kalfani, the brother Sean, brother Vince or Venice. I'm okay. I'm not sure if okay Venice. I'm gonna say Venice. If I say brother or sister, that'd be wrong. That's embarrassing. Um, Conscientiously aspiring peace. Teddy Wasser Ma'at Ras Neferu peace. Indigenous black man peace. Vyasa peace. Zane brother Zane is in the house peace. And who do we else do we have? Well, that's all I can see. Actually, I'm just scrolling down the chat. That's it. 504 top level peace. He says, I'm a man. Okay. Venice. All right. Appreciate that. don't wanna don't wanna, don't wanna misrepresent anyone. Brother Chavis. Brother Chavis was in the chat earlier too. So and brother Tony, peace. All right, Hotep. So listen, feel free to jump on the panel here because I'm not going to spend a lot of time live right now. I just want to have kind of like an after party, and so really this anything that I say is kind of gonna anchor and link back to Asar's presentation or the after party that he already had. All right, unless you all have some questions for me about anything that I say, may kind of branch off and take a different course. That's fine. African Renaissance, I believe that is the brother Aziz. Aziz got a lot of names. Brother Aziz, you got Ravwan, Aziz, African Renaissance TV. Sooner or later he's gonna be, you know, Asiatic black man, maker, owner, cream of earth, godfather of all. I'm butchering that. I'm butchering that whole thing up. But Aziz gonna be all of that in a minute. Watch. Next week he gonna have a different one. African Renaissance TV. I believe that. I don't know. I think that's Aziz. But all right, so peace to everybody. All right, peace, peace, peace. So, all right, so back to the conversation. Now, now I do my best to shoot it straight, you know, and I address elephants in the room because whenever I'm in the room and an elephant is either already in the room or elephant comes in the room that I'm in, I'm going to say something. Okay? No elephant is going to exist in a room that I'm in and I not say anything. So I'm going to address elephants in the room. And the big elephant here that I see, and you all tell me if you all see the same thing. Every single time that people have an adversarial stance, position, or oppositional claim, or whatever, claims in opposition to what is being said, there's a pattern. They actually have that position based on not knowing the information and being a student of the information, but the opposite. They don't know much about the information, little to nothing, and they don't study it. That's not their cup of tea. And that's exactly what happened today. That's exactly what happened today. And I don't remember the brother's name. So maybe whoever was tuned in earlier, can you let me know what the brother's name was, what the person's name was? And I'm speaking, when I say person, I'm talking about the person that was in the chat during Asar's presentation, but came on the after party and he was on the panel. And he was discussing, he had a problem with a few things that Asar was saying. Tack Freak, that's the name, Tack Freak? Okay. So if it was Tack Freak, then Tack Freak. So it never fails that these people, when I say these people, I'm talking about Tack Freak and everyone like him. They don't study the information, but yet they take a stance in opposition. They have a stance that's either adversarial or in opposition to the information that's being presented. And that's exactly what happened today. That's what happens all the time. People who do not study historical comparative linguistics, they have so much to say about it. It never fails. And so I'm listening to the after party, and I'm listening to the guy talk, and he is wrong on so many fundamental levels. I can't even say he's wrong. There's a lot of information that he is unaware of. Now, I'm not saying what I'm saying right now as if my expectations is for everybody to know everything, or for everybody to be a student of comparative linguistics, or everybody to be into linguistics, period. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I am saying, and the point that I am making, is that if you're going to have a stance, or you have conclusions, or you have arguments that are in opposition to something, then at that moment, at the very least, you better be familiar and be competent in the field in which you're trying to argue. It's just as simple as that, because if you don't know, you don't know. You keep quiet. You take notes. You're like, okay, if something don't make sense, it's different. It's a difference between something not making sense to you versus you think somebody's wrong. The only way you're going to know if somebody is wrong is if you yourself are competent enough to make that discernment. That's the only way. If you're not competent in a subject, You can't make that judgment call. You can't make that discernment. You can't discern that. Therefore, if you can't discern it, you need to keep a tight lip. Keep your fingers in check on the keyboard. Keep your lips in check in terms of conversation. But this is not what we see in this circus community. We got people out here who are arguing, fussing, and fighting repeatedly about things that they themselves do not study and are not competent enough in. And it's become so normal that as I'm saying what I'm saying right now, I'm sure some of you listening to me and you may not agree with what I'm saying because it's become so normal. Or you may be saying, well, Joe, what's wrong with that? There's nothing, I don't see anything wrong with that. Everything is wrong with that because it diminishes, it decays, it undermines the quality of scholarship, the quality of the advancement of the body of knowledge that we can have in these various different fields of study. When we lower the bar to the point where anybody and their mother can have an opinion that gets entertained, and you don't have to study something, you don't have to be competent in something, but yet your opinion becomes valid enough to do 7 in a row live stream videos on, that's detrimental. And that's what I see. And so today was no different. The brother comes on Asar's platform and argues things that he don't know enough about. And it's clear. And here's the thing. It's rough because when you point these things out, there's a borderline between sounding elitist and condescending when these things are pointed out. And so, I do hear some people be like, well, so and so is condescending, or you think you know all of that. You think you know everything and whatnot. And I hear that. I hear that being accused of others. Some people try to accuse me of that on different occasions. And so I get it. It's rough to bring it up and to point these things out without those accusations being, bubbling up to the surface. But here's the thing. You know the street saying, game recognizes game, right? What does that mean? Game recognizes game. Sometimes in life, in experiences, you recognize something only on the strength of you being a participant in it or having experience in it. So they say game recognizes game, right? Well, the same thing happens in academic circles, scholarly circles, etc. When you are experienced in a field of study, you know when somebody's full of it versus somebody who's also in that field of study. You know that. I'm gonna give you an example. In the Masonic world of Freemasonry, an actual brother of the craft, a fellow traveling man, a member of the Masonic Lodge, a master Mason, a person who's actually that and have participated, who's been, initiated, passed, and raised, et cetera, and whatever, further instructions that he received and whatever the case is, that person will be able to detect someone else who's also of the craft, in the craft, or somebody who's a fraud, who's faking the funk. You can tell because of the experience, because of the competency, because of the direct execution of different things, the familiarity that person has. Well, the same thing happens in academic circles. The same thing happens in the various sciences and things. You can tell somebody who is an actual medical physician versus somebody who plays one on YouTube. You can tell someone who is a person who knows the ancient Egyptian writing system and its language and its grammar versus those people who pretend and play that stuff on YouTube. Like me myself, I have over a decade experience with the ancient Egyptian language, from its writing system, the hieroglyphic writing system, to the details of its grammar. And I can tell when I hear other people discuss these things online in various different platforms, I can tell who's full of it and who's actually studying it versus people who are playing games with it and so on and so forth. I can tell that. Now, in order for me to say so and express it, it could come off like elitism and condescending and stuff like that, because it's these are things that without the other people also having that experience, it's kind of hard to really explain. So on the streets we say game recognizes game. Only game recognizes game. If you're not in the game, you're not gonna recognize others in the game. You see, and so the point I'm reaching at with Asar's after party, the brother that came on the panel, is that you can immediately tell when people are ignorant of something, even though they may sound very articulate. They can articulate themselves. You know, people will have a professional have a professionalism about themselves and everything like that. They can have good character and the whole nine, but you can tell if they don't know what they're talking about. And everything and up to that point, that's even still fine. Cause there's always room for correction. There's always room to change until there's no room. I always say that. There's room until there's no room. You can change until you can't change. So even with that, people have to have the character and know enough to be like, okay, well, wait a minute, let me slow things down a little bit. Maybe there's some things that I don't know, and let me pump my brakes a bit and not come to any of these conclusions. And that's what we don't see. People don't do enough of that. So I'm not sure if you all witnessed it and stuff. And I know I'm kind of rambling and whatnot, and I don't want to ramble. I want to engage. So since nobody came on this panel yet, I'm just gonna keep on talking. But here are a couple of things that stood out to me. Well, that keeps repeating itself. People bring up when it comes to linguistics and language. Here are some things that I see. Okay, repeatedly. One, a lot of people don't know what language is. Now that sounds strange because all of us speak one or more languages. Like right now I'm speaking English, and most of you are listening to me. Obviously you speak English because you're listening and you're understanding what I'm saying. So it's odd for me to say that a lot of people don't know what a language is. That seems odd, but it's actually a true statement. A lot of people don't even know what a word is, even though we use words every day. These are things we take for granted. We think we know what a word is. We think we know what a language is, because the way that we are brought up and we start utilizing these things, it becomes second nature, but we never double back and say, wait a minute, let me actually analyze and intentionally drill down into knowing what is a word. What is a language? What separates one language from another language? How do we categorize languages? What makes this language it and another language, and where's that line drawn? And so on and so forth. We don't take time out to do that. And for the most part, we don't have to, because not everybody's gonna obviously do something where linguistics is needed on that kind of level to where you have to actually study it and so on and so forth. So in the average given day, you don't have to do that. So I understand that. But equally to that, if that's the case for any particular person, then don't come trying to argue about it. If you haven't taken the time out to learn the basic and fundamentals of any particular field that you're trying to chime in on in a conversation or argue or debate about, then don't do it. But that's what we see a lot of. And so the person came on Asar's panel talking about things, skipping some very, very basic fundamental things that I was hearing. And like I said, people don't know what a language is. People don't know what words are. People don't know the difference between transliteration and transcription versus translations. And then people really don't understand the difference between a language and a writing system. A lot of people make those things synonymous, not having that understanding that they're two distinct things, and having a lack of knowledge of how they connect and relate to each other through a mapping system. Writing is the visual representation of speech, but that can only be true is if there's a system of mapping the spoken language to the written language, what you hear to what you see, in a systematic way. And then drill down within that, you have different issues that you have to be familiar with to make these arguments. You have to understand the difference between a graph and a grapheme on those two different levels. The etic level of a graph and the emic level of a grapheme. Same thing with sounds. The phone, which is the etic level of sound, phones, which you actually hear, versus phonemes, the emic level of sounds, which is phonemes, which are abstractions. You have to understand these things to even try to have an argument about certain issues. And the topic that Asar was covering about the reconstruction of Egyptian before comparing, it involves these issues. It involves the issue of transliterations. How graphemes are mapped to other graphs. How graphs are mapped to other graphs out of convenience or for whatever the reason is. And things like that. So we have to have these understandings. So a lot of that is lacking, but yet people will take a stance and argue about these things. Now, I'm only talking about this subject and what Asar brought up today, but this goes for everything. It goes for religion. It goes for anthropology on a bigger scale. It goes for a lot of things. Science, the various different sciences. You got people who pop up on these live streams and just talk, but don't read. They don't study. They don't study. Because what I do is when people make a strong stance in opposition to something, one of the first things I ask, if not the first thing, is I'll ask, how many books have you read on the subject? And give me some examples of such books. And I'm going to tell you, way more often than not, 9 out of 10 times that I will ask that question, the people who have these strong stances and things, they cannot produce that list for me. They can't tell me what they've read. They can't demonstrate that they have actually done literature review on the topic, studied the topic, or anything. And that's sad. That's very telling to me that this circus community has become a community of gossip and just circular, repetitive chit chat and talking. And we it's become attractive and people like it. But in the bigger picture, it's not very useful. It's not very helpful to for progress, to expand the body of knowledge on these different topics. And so everything I heard Asar say to that brother was repeated, was repeat information that's covered over and over and over again. Why? Because people don't read prior to trying to have a stance. Now, like I said, not everybody will have the time to read, and I'm not trying to put um, that responsibility on everybody. I'm not the person to be naive to think everybody can read everything or should become an expert in everything or get a degree in everything. I'm not saying that whatsoever. What I am saying is if you come with an argument, if you come in opposition, if you come as an opponent or an adversary to a position, you better have that information under your belt. You better have done literature review. You better have done your study. You better be competent and familiar in the field in which you're trying to argue. That is what I demand of of people. And these people out here, they don't. They don't. So it becomes wasted time. That's how come you don't see me on these YouTube streets um getting dancing around in the goofy conversations that I hear. And I call them goofy, and I call the community as a whole a circus because it's entertainment and it's attractive, and we all like to be entertained. But we have to have a way to leverage the opportunities to actually learn something, because people are missing the opportunity to learn by being attracted to the foolery, to the kicking, screaming, fussing, and fighting, and adversarial aspect of the entertainment side of things. We're missing the opportunities to learn. We're missing the opportunities to expand the knowledge on these different topics. We're way behind. Why is it that we're still talking about Afro-Asiatic in 2022 when we had these conversations back in 2012, 2014? And it's not like we're saying something different. It's the same stuff over and over again. So, anyway, I don't know. Emika, did you have something?
I was just saying that I know. I mean, y'all got some kind of patience to that, like some next level type of stuff. Because me personally, I wouldn't even entertain these kind of people. Like you wouldn't even if it was just my panel, you will not last 5 minutes. Like there's just some things. There's people asking legitimate questions. There's actually not knowing, which is legitimately not knowing and wanting to know, as opposed to just people just acting a fool and just dragging out the rest of the people behind. So on my channel, like if it was just me personally, Imicat, now y'all know that I would not have this amount of patience. But I understand the other side of that patience is actually good because it offers us to this chance to see and understand just the different kinds of mentality and arguments, and then also for to reiterate stuff. But in this particular sense, it's not just the fact that people don't read and but still want to be argumentative, but even after being offered the opportunity or the advice to read, which is actually a good advice, especially like even just this latest one, you will always see those people rejecting something like this. Because even this other the brother that was with Asar on the panel, when Asar did suggest that he actually just ups his game, like go get the prerequisites, read, study, take time. What he was like, what the guy ended up saying was basically he's not going to read. He didn't say it verbatim, but he said he was going to give it to somebody else, the other people who he thought were experts, and then whatever they say, then he's gonna come back and write. Basically was gonna appeal to authority and then come back and argue with Asar, with the offer that Asar gave him, like my panel is open for you. So he's not going to read. He's going to defer to the experts. And we've heard other people say to this, we only listen to the experts. So they will just listen to the experts. These people are not willing to actually study. They will just want to listen to somebody else and then come and argue those other people's point. And that is actually the problem itself. They don't understand that that is the root of the problem. So when a suggestion is given to you that you study, you the person who wants to argue, study, they don't take it. They would actually rather, like, I'm gonna give it to this professor. So this professor, whatever he tells me, I'm gonna come back and then, I'll argue that with you. I don't know what he's saying, the professor is saying. I just know that I will present that to you, and we're gonna argue some more with it. So he's still gonna be incompetent, and he's still gonna come back and argue with us on those particular points. And that's actually just a shame. But we've seen that happen time and time again. People are just not willing to do it. People would rather argue. The basic point is people want to argue. People just don't want to study.
Well, listen, that's very very true, and it's a pattern. It should be a pattern, but what happens is it's such a pattern that it's the norm now, and when something becomes the norm, the we're affected in a way where we become numb and we become oblivious to it, you know, and that could be very dangerous, and it is. And so it takes a few people to recognize it and say something, and we gotta scream to the mountaintop, from the mountaintop, that it's going on, you know. But we become the minority by default. We become the minority, or we are the minority. And so people gotta really just get back into slowing things down and not having this urge to, for the sake of creating content, for the sake of going live all the time, twice a day, every day, just to be able to say something. You know, I don't know if people need their channels monetized or if that's the reason, whatever the motivation is. Whatever floats people's boats, you know, that's cool. But it has to have a rhyme or reason to make sense. And people are trading one for the other. You can't do that, or you shouldn't do that. Just real quick though, because I don't wanna, be all talky without having participation in the chat. And like I said, the panel link is in the chat, is pinned to the top of the chat. So if you want to come in, by all means come in, because I'm gonna be chilling on this live for a little while, not too long now. I'm not doing a marathon or anything like that. Maybe 30 minutes at the most. It's 9:26 now. Probably shut down at 10 o'clock at the most. So I'm just gonna go through a couple of comments that I saw. So Venice, you said why linguists today haven't done the work on Egyptian language compared to other African languages. Is there a reason? Well, yes. The answer is well. The last part of your question, is there a reason? Yes, because linguists tend to not put the same efforts in the Egyptian language as they do other African languages. And there's one, kind of obvious reason, is because the Egyptian language is quote unquote a dead language. And so they don't have real time live speakers of the language like they do other African languages. And then the people themselves can get involved in the study of the particular language. That's what's going on around the continent today, where African languages, the diverse African languages that we are dealing with on the continent right now, where people who may or may not have even had a writing system for their particular language, just strictly an oral language, or using Latin orthography or Arabic script, Latin alphabet, or whatever, to write their languages. More and more natives are getting involved in linguistics to be able to document and chart and form a study of their own language, to write grammars of their own language. This is fairly new, and that's going on. That's because they still speak the language. They still have speech communities, whereas ancient Egyptian, that's not the case. At best, they can only deal with Coptic, and that's why there's a lot of work on Coptic, not for the historical or ancient Egyptianness of it, but as a language in and of itself. There's a lot of work on Coptic. There's Coptic dictionaries, there's Coptic grammars, there's Coptic videos, Coptic speech classes and so on. You can go to YouTube right now and search Coptic lessons, and you'll have people who speak Coptic teach you Coptic, how to say it. You don't find that for ancient Egyptian at all. You're not gonna find that. At the at best for that, you'll find people who make up their own pronunciations of the Egyptian language. I know one in particular that I found like years ago, and it's basically people who make up the sounds of ancient Egyptian themselves, and a couple of them mimic what they try to do in movies like the Mummy movies or Stargate and stuff like that, where you have people um, in the movie, in the scenes, try to speak Egyptian, you know. But even in that, when you hear it, it sounds Semitic. It sounds like Arabic, you know, and things like that. If you check it out. But anyway, so that's one obvious, and there's many other reasons, you know. Um, there's a list of reasons, and another major reason is the racial element of Egyptology in general, and then just in African studies. Um, I mean Egyptology, more specific, and then African studies in general, where the racial element, whereas Africa is looked at as a what do you call it? As a secondary thing. It's not a primary or have high value in the scholarly world. Africa is one of those secondary thoughts. It's like an afterthought. Like, oh yeah, what are we gonna do about the African languages? Ah, okay, we'll get to it. Especially in linguistics, that's how it was treated. Rigor was put into the Indo-European side of things, and a whole lot less rigor was put into the African side of things when it comes to linguistics. All right, so just kind of touch on those two things. Um, Again, I'm just trying to go through these comments here. Oh, and I see Indigenous Black Man. What's the link? You said check out your presentation, but send me the link on that. Brother Teddy, Ujao going to be the mouse in the room, elephant. Yeah, I don't like elephants in the room. Well, actually, I don't have a problem with them being in the room as long as I'm not the only one that sees them in the room. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm friends with elephants. I mean, I like elephants. It's just that I want everybody else to see that there's an elephant. I'm not crazy. Let's see. Travis says, "AK Black Baudi." Oh, that's the brother that was on the thing. Okay, Black Baudi. All right, Black Bahudi. Bahudi. All right, cool. Um, yeah, I don't know that brother, but I just heard what was being said, and the brother has no business taking a stance or making arguments. He really doesn't.
Yeah, see, that was you could tell, and I think what you said was right. You could tell, when you know stuff, you can tell who knows the same way, like game recognized game, and who doesn't. Because even that whole thing about material culture, him mixing language, like like a spoken language with material culture, and then actually trying to argue somebody down over it. Things like that would just tell you that that person has no business at all, even just like that person actually just needs to go and start learning from scratch, because for if you don't understand what language is, what a script is and all that, but you're trying to actually argue people down on matters, comparative linguistics, and then you don't even understand what material culture is, and you mix it up with what a language is, like you're so far gone, where I think that Asar was definitely right, like like there's no hope for you. And it's a shame that that person would be the loudest in a room.
Yeah, yeah. And unfortunately, see, we're in a society now. People are not reading like how we used to. Now that's my observation. You all may have a different experience than me, and I can respect that. But in my experience over my tenure of time dealing with historical topics, culture, anthropology, science, all the hard sciences, all the STEM things, all the humanities type of subject matters and things like that, I've seen a decline in the quality and rigor that goes into acquiring knowledge versus what we have today. And that's just, that's been my experience. And it's sad to see that, and it gets frustrating at times, especially when you're trying to point these things out, and people are not taking heed to it or anything. It's okay. So hey, it's sad. So Conscious and Aspiring said that's a brother problem. He was uninformed. Definitely. Let me welcome Chavis to the panel. But before you speak, Chavis, let me just try to catch up on a couple of these comments first, real quick. I'm gonna run down the list a little bit. All right. Just run down these. It's often sound like self-hate because people had to make assumptions to reach conclusions they do. Yep. Ramza. Oh, let's see what Ramza's talking about. Wajao went live right when I'm watching a dung beetle pushing dung ball up the sand hill on TV. Okay. Hey, speaking of that, real quick, as a side note, Ramza, I'm sure that when you saw the dung beetle push the dung ball along, right? You saw the dung beetle push with its hind legs and not the front legs, right? Just confirm that for us. Let's see what else is going on. Indigenous black man, that's what happens to me all the time, but who's laughing? Pseudo, now the truths are out. Okay, I'm not sure what that is about. Kafre Ahmos, ego management and lack of emotional intelligence is a major problem in societies these days. Yes, it is. Another problem is people become polarized, because I'm seeing a lot of people push STEM. They talk about STEM this, scientific literacy, but nobody is paying the equal amount of focus on psychology, on the study of the mind and human behavior and character. And that falls on the side of humanities, the whole humanities side and social sciences versus the hard sciences, and things like that. So we're becoming polarized, and I'm noticing that. And we gotta make sure we maintain balancement, because those two major sides of things, the hard sciences and the humanities or social sciences, or what they say soft sciences, they relate to one another, and there has to be some kind of balancement because they inform each side. They inform each other, and people have become more polarized to the point where it's really, really getting silly out there and getting real goofy out there, especially on the YouTube streets. I'm seeing a lot of goofy, silly stuff going on. People just talking out the side of their neck, But it's becoming popular. It's popular, so much popular. People making money off of it. I'm in the middle of Historical Linguistics by Lau Campbell. Okay, good, Venice. That's excellent. That's excellent. Let's see. Indigenous black man. You tell a lie enough, people will start to believe it. That's true. I mean, a lie told repeated becomes the truth, relatively speaking. People who do shows on languages they don't speak or study. That's true. And that's crazy. See, I do a show and I go live on Egyptian language. I have experience in there. I've been teaching it for over 10 years. I've been dealing with it for longer than that. And I'm confident. Like, I'll go live from my car, and I'll do an open mic, open thing. You can AMA, ask me anything about the Egyptian language, and I'm good. I stay ready. I'm good. I'm just like that. And that stance and that feeling is what I have because I put in the work, because I've done the studies, and because I've have a focus in this area. But you will not find me do that same thing on things that I don't study or I don't have the same focus on. You don't see me doing that. I would be a fool to do that. But that's what other people do. They go live, or they jump on your live and argue with you in opposition and become your adversary on a topic that they know nothing of. And it gets to the point where you have to teach them live and in real time just enough to let them know that they're wrong. It's like you have to bring them up to speed just to let them know that they're wrong. And that gets frustrating over time. I'm not. You can't be babysitting people like that. People just need to get with the program. Be like, all right, well, let me stop doing that. Let me take time out to study and catch up. Let me ask questions. Let me ask, okay, what books should I read? What are your recommendations? What do you recommend for me to learn more about um, how the Egyptian language was deciphered? Because I'm under the impression, just based on a little bit I know, that it hasn't been deciphered. See, come like that. Don't come, oh, the Egyptian language has never been deciphered. And then you're gonna ask me some stupid question, how you gonna put sounds to pictures? That is a retarded, stupid question. And I call it what it is. Because the English alphabet that you use right now, it's a character. How do you put sound to that? The C don't make us the C sound intrinsically by itself. We map that. The B, the A, the B, the C, the D, E, F, G, etc., etc. How you put sounds to pictures, would y'all? See, you can't do that. Therefore, it was never deciphered. That's retarded. All right, so Chavis, I don't want to hog it up. I'm gonna keep going down the list, but I don't want you to lose your thought because obviously you jumped on, and I don't know what what's on your
I
mind.
just
So
got my battery gonna die in a little bit, but I was just curious. I had already asked a question in the chat, but like, so you understand what is the purpose of mathematical linguistics, and do anybody on the panel like understand like or have any clue as to the relevance to that and what Asar is trying to accomplish and what he's even talking about? Like, why do the dude steady keep on bringing up mathematical linguistics? Like, that's gonna like he one of that he even implied that Asar was like not even familiar with it. So I'm like, I don't understand how he's making these assumptions and assertions and what is based on, and I don't even understand like what was the purpose of bringing that up and avoiding what was being asked of him. I was just wondering, what's your understanding of the purpose of the use of mathematical linguistics?
okay, well, and to keep it short as I can, um, Asar was the term mathematical linguistics came up in the conversation because I heard it today. It came up in the conversation because of the ignorance or the lack of knowledge that the brother has about what Asar was actually talking about. So what Asar was saying, and he says this all the time, and it's something that we all should know, that language is mathematic in nature, meaning it's on the side of logic. It's not on the side of science. And we have to understand that there's a difference between these two major domains of knowledge. One is based around evidence, which is science. Science is the domain of evidence and observation and testing and so on and so forth. Whereas math is the domain of logic. We have proofs where you have logic tables, you have if-thens, you have validity, soundness, and so on and so forth, logical fallacies, and all of that. And so language falls on the side of mathematics because we assign sounds. And one thing that Asar brought up was something that's called an idiolect. And so an idiolect is language at the individual level. Because even as I'm speaking English, we call a language English, and I'm speaking it, and you're speaking it, but my individual manifestation of it differs from yours. So my idiolect of English is what I express, and then your idiolect of English is what you express. But they're close enough; they're so close to each other, and recognizable enough to where we will say we're both speaking English. So there's different layers of what language is. So a language in and of itself is a set of signs, and signs themselves are forms linked to meaning. And we store those signs in our mind, our psyche. And if we share those same signs, then we can communicate with one another. And if we can communicate, then it is said that we're speaking the same language. But my expression of it as an individual is an idiolect. So I'm saying all of that to say is that what language is and how we document it, how we talk about it, how we analyze it and stuff is very mathematical in nature, where we can assign variables and equations and formulas to different things, especially when we're starting to break things down on the doing morphemic and morphological analysis and phonemic and phonological analysis, which all goes into and supports the comparative method when you're comparing two or more languages together to find out if they come from a parent language. So he and Asar demonstrating all of that stuff. The brother brought up mathematical linguistics, which is not a one for one the same thing what Asar was talking about. Computational linguistics or quantitative linguistics and things like that is not something that Asar was getting into. So and so I'm saying all of that to say is that because, and this is what people do when they don't know enough about a topic, they will try to curve and divert the topic that is actually being discussed over into the circle of the area that they do know and understand. So, like for example, if I'm not competent in comparative linguistics, but I am competent in another area of linguistics, I'm going to try to pull the conversation over into my area. I'm gonna try to pull it in my area so I can keep up with the conversation and sound like I'm competent when I'm really not. And that's what happened today. Because the brother is has a degree in mathematics or something like that. Of course, he's going to lean to mathematical linguistics, even though he don't study linguistics. But combining linguistics and math, duh, I'm gonna say mathematical linguistics. So he's gonna try to curve the conversation in that area to where he can keep up and stay relevant in the conversation instead of saying, okay, you know what? I need to learn more about historical comparative linguistics. Oh, sorry, do you have any books that you recommend that I read? Start me off light now, and then I'll gradually I'll come back, and I may come back to you with some questions or blah blah blah. See, that should have been his course of action, but he didn't. He
I
didn't do that.
agree.
He didn't do that.
Not at all.
But I'm saying in general, that's what people do. They do that all the time. They do that all the time. And so that's the thing. But that's not what Asar was bringing up. And Asar's done presentations before on the mathematical nature of historical comparative linguistics.
Yeah,
Finding the well, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, but that dude didn't even like. He wasn't even really able to like intelligently speak on like the historical compared. Like he couldn't even go down that road. He couldn't give him any understanding of what just the basic method was that needed to be utilized to draw these type of conclusions on whether something is even valid or not. That was
Mm-hmm.
like that was what I thought was very interesting with him being, what I'm saying, having a degree in mathematics and whatnot, like how he couldn't grasp what was being said. It was concerning to me, but it's crazy though.
Well, here's the thing. a lot of people on these YouTube streets, especially recently, because of their own shortcomings, they emphasize experts, they emphasize authorities, and I'm gonna go with the experts type of thing. I know you hear that a lot. I'm rolling with the experts. I'm gonna listen. I'd rather listen to the experts than you. Not even really knowing what an expert is. And just to put it simply, an expert is a person with experience in something. And the way we rate experts today in the context of how we use it is we put a time factor on it. So an expert becomes a person who is experienced in something over a period of time. And then based on that time frame, we'll judge the level of expertise. So for example, if somebody has 1 year experience in something versus somebody who has 30 years of experience in something, obviously we're going to favor the 30 years over the 1 year because of the tenure of time, that time that's gone through. But none of that speaks to the accuracy of anything, because you have experts, you have degree holders who support pseudo things that are known pseudo. Like for example, and I put this on Facebook. You have degreed PhD people in fields that will support that movement, the Gaia movement, the whole Gaia paranormal movement. You go to Netflix and watch these documentaries. They show PhD people all the time. UFO conspiracy folks, paranormal activity people, studying ghosts and ghouls and goblins and stuff like that. These people have PhDs that they bring on the show. Experts in different fields. So for anybody to just defer to experts on the sake of them being an expert or whatever is stupid. We can't do that. So we're back at the drawing board. It's not about them being an expert for expert's sake. It's about the ability to demonstrate the truthfulness and accuracy of any given thing. And then our ability to make that discernment because of the level of competency that we have. So for example, if I know absolutely nothing about automobiles except my driver's license to drive one, but I don't know anything about the mechanics of a car, and I get two different opinions from two auto mechanics about the same car and what the car needs, I'm stuck. I won't be able to tell which mechanic is right or wrong, or if both of them are wrong or whatever. So at that moment, to break to break me free from being stuck, I have to gain competency, at least enough to make that discernment. And that's what people fail to do in these topics of discussions that we see and hear. People just relying on experts, and it becomes anyone that agrees with me, I'm gonna roll with.
We're gonna listen to the experts. And if you notice, especially like what you said, I mean, because the key point is, the demonstration always beats conversation. Like, even on this particular discussion, I think I didn't listen to the whole conversation of the after party itself. But I remember three different occasions when Asar actually asked the guy on the panel, what do you think, or can you demonstrate? Can you show what do you understand what is the method that was used for this particular this and that? And you would see, and when those people get asked straightforward questions after being so loud and argumentative, well, now you explain your part. Don't mention any expert. Just explain what you understand about that expert, or what do you understand from what you read from that expert of that book. You would notice that the guy wasn't answering, and Asaki had to ask him, "I'm asking you the question." And the guy would be like pretending like he's about to ask us another question, or Asar isn't answering his other question instead of him actually answering the question. And that is actually just to throw people off, because of the point that when you're put on a front seat to actually explain yourself, you realize that those people do not have any understanding. And that is the crux of the whole thing. They do not have an understanding. And if you do not have an understanding of what you're arguing about, then you're lost, because in his sense, his mathematics degree cannot help him. Like, your math degree cannot help you if you're actually arguing with a person, and then you have to ask a person and actually be shocked when a person is explaining to you how a language like Yoruba, like Asa asked him, that did the language exist before the writing system? Then you have to think for yourself, like, yeah, because then you have to understand, ask yourself, what is a writing system and what is a language, and what is the language doing, and would the language still exist if the writing system was not there? Like those little things that has nothing to do with a mathematics degree, but unfortunately, for a mathematician, you would expect that basic logic, a mathematician would be able to grasp it and actually just say, you know what, that's a good point you brought right there, and actually is helping me understand what what you're trying to explain a little better. So like Ujao said, a person at that point will just say, you know what, I'll take some time out because you brought a good point right there. I need to understand. I need to take some time out and understand the difference between the language and the writing system, because they're clearly two different things, and I'm not understanding it right now, so I'm out of my league. But that person did not understand that, and when they don't understand, then they're trying to bring the things like the mathematics, understanding, and the degrees and all of that. But this is not a mathematics discussion. This is a comparative linguistic discussion, which means that at this point you have to understand what language is, you have to understand what a writing system is, and why, as Asa was pointing out, the IPS system is being used, because even those little things he did not understand, which is shameful, in that sense, because the guy actually, it just shows that you don't belong in that discussion. And actually that's a good example of why we can't actually just keep using the word I have a degree, and I know an expert and all of that, because all those kind of things failed that person in this particular discussion.
It is crazy because like he was resorting to like trying to gaslight Asar because he's telling them, you didn't read, you need to read this, and maybe you can come back and we could actually basically just have an intelligent discussion, because you look crazy and it's pathetic right now that you you have a degree and you can't even really hang. Like he trying to make him feel that he's telling you that you gotta read. Go read this book. I'm giving you the book to go read. Also, because of this, that you're gonna back like, no, man, he's really trying to help you out. You could, that's the kind of stuff that kind of tells me what people intent really is. That you can tell, like, even with the Seshu, with the Asar, with like you're trying to help people learn. It's not just to make you look stupid. It's actually like to better you. But people be taking that and then y'all being condescending. No, y'all got some serious patience. 'Cause I couldn't do it.
Well, see, that's the
Yeah.
thing. The see, now that I blame it on the environment. The circus community has created and cultivated that sentiment where instead of people taking what's being said as help, they take it as being some kind of negative thing. So if I tell somebody that, hey, you need to read more, you should read more, here are a list of books that you should get, instead of them taking it as, hey, Wujao is taking an interest and cares enough that he's letting me know what to read, and he's recognizing the fact that I'm lacking somewhere, instead of them taking it that way, they'll take it as Wujao is trying to sun me. He's trying to be condescending. He thinks he know all of that. Well, he knows everything. So my ego, I'm gonna have to pump my ego. Let me pull out my tire pump and pump up my ego and defend myself, defend my honor, defend my whatever. And so people snap back and have this reflexive action, this reaction, and that's what happens. But that is enabled because of the environment. The entire circus community is based around fighting. So much so that even the vernacular of the community is fighting words. Who's going to get into the ring? Who's going to spar on this? We're going to have a pre sparring whatever. We got the Floyd Mayweather of blah 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 blah. Or throwing the so and so was throwing jabs or whatever. And it becomes true. With weapons. Now I'm gonna dagger you. So
so-and-so's getting beat.
Right, right. He's getting beat, whatever, and this that. So and then the round. Okay, I'm going in the third round. It's a third round knockout. He's down for the count. All of those words are expressing the relationship to the sentiment of fighting with acquiring knowledge and education. Now, it seems innocent because it's entertaining and that it seems fun, right? But at this point in time, over the last 10 years, it's detrimental. It's become the norm to where the quality has decayed to where that's now the standard. If I can't get on a certain platforms and outshout somebody or come up with these gotcha moments enough, then I lose. Even
Right.
though everything I'm saying is 100% accurate, but I will still lose because the winning sentiment or the winning judgment is based around erroneous and false things and the entertainment and the wow factor now. And that's what it's become. And that's a problem. That's the elephant in the room. And see, I unapologetically say these things because none of those other things and platforms, um, I'm not in bed with that to where I have to, be an enabler or I have to feel, I have to walk on eggshells about that. I can express myself fully, and I've been doing that for years now to the point where, everybody knows, to the point where how I see all these different platforms and so on and so forth. But like I said, we're all adults. People have a right to run things the way they wish, and that's cool. Like I don't, I draw a line where I don't tell people to not support X, Y, and Z, but it's the expectation, and it's what you're going for. Like for example, nobody go, or I should nobody should go to a science fiction movie expecting with the expectations of it being real, everything in it being real. You don't go to a Disney cartoon movie expecting it to be real. So it's the expectations. You go to be entertained. Like I'm going to a Disney movie, I'm going to a family Disney movie. I want to be entertained. I'm gonna submerge myself in the entertainment and have a good time, and that's it. I'm gonna go to a science fiction movie. I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna go to a Marvel movie. I'm gonna watch the Avengers. I'm gonna watch Iron Man, and I'm gonna be fully entertained. I'm gonna immerse myself in there, and I'm gonna enjoy myself, and that's it. But you not expecting that stuff to be real. You're not expecting a man to be zapped by gamma rays and turning green and turn into a Hulk. You're not expecting somebody named Thor to come out the sky with a hammer spinning and lightning coming up out of it and stuff like that. But you enjoy it. We enjoy it. I'm a big comic book fan. But when those expectations start to become the norm, then we're in trouble. And that's what's going on. So I think Travis, he said his phone was about to die, and I think it did. So he is definitely out. Yurab bin Yur Yurab bin Yarub. He says Imhotep. Imhotep. Let's see. I'm just going down. We got brother Kevin Chill Herd. Listen, boy, if anybody don't know who this brother is, Kevin MC Chill Herd. The brother. See, I look at the brother Kevin. I don't know if he's still in the chat. 'Cause I'm behind on the chat. Hopefully he's still in the chat. But Kevin and the sister Monica. If y'all know Monica Lamb and you don't know Kevin, then you need to know both. Because, like me personally, I look at Monica Lamb as like one of the hardest working sisters in these social communities and things like that. And I look at Kevin as equally the male version of that hard working, because Kevin be everywhere, interviews and the stuff that he's done in the past, man. So the brother definitely needs to be given acknowledgement, recognition, and flowers for the work that he's put in many different areas as a journalist, as a MC, journalist, and you name it. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, I just wanted to give the brother Kevin a shout out there, MC Chill. So I don't know if you still in the building. Let's see. Keep going. Hold on, I don't want to miss this one. Venus says, dang, damn, you're right, Woo. I never noticed that, but that you're saying it. People do that all the time. Okay, I'm not sure what was I saying at the time.
That's when you were saying that people try to, when they don't understand, when they know that they don't understand the topic or discussion, then they divert it to to a topic that they know or a subject that they know, and it's stick to it.
Yeah, okay, yep, that's it. Pay attention. You gonna see it. You're gonna see it. Once you know, if you try to stay aware of it, you're gonna see a lot of people do it. A lot of people do it. I've seen people do it all the time. All the time. All the time. They will curve a discussion over into what they want to talk about. I'm like, nope, nope. Let's stick to it. And people don't like me. I'm not saying people don't like me, but people don't like it when I slow a conversation down, because see, this is the way that I was taught. I was academically raised. You never acquiesce to a faulty premise, because if you do acquiesce to a faulty premise, you will always be led to a faulty conclusion. That was drilled in me. And what that means in practical terms is that whenever somebody makes a statement or ask a question or make a claim, you have to examine the statement, question, or claim to make sure it's sound before you build on top of it. Because if you don't, then you're running the risk of building on quicksand, on a faulty foundation, a faulty premise. So the premise has to be solid. And so this is what, you know, people don't like when you slow the conversation down. It's like, wait. Your question needs to be fixed first, brother. What you mean? A question's a question. Like when we were talking about the word black and stuff like that. Everybody knows what black is. Or when I talk about a word, everybody knows what a word is, but do they? Okay, let me test then. Let me test. What is a word made of? Then all of a sudden, the conversation goes crazy.
Oh, you just playing semantics now. Ooh.
Yeah, or you just playing semantics. Everybody, you mean it? And then they try to get out, try to appeal to emotion. You mean to tell me that we're gonna have to have a whole show on what a word is to talk about a word? You act like nobody don't know what a word is. Like what? So anyway, all right. So will you tell me the difference between a lexeme and a word form, then, brother? Tell me that difference. What's the difference between a lexeme and a word form? What's the difference between the form and the meaning and the link? What are they called? And how does that come together? And people don't know. They can't say. Is the word what's the word? What's the example I always use? Is the word teach and teacher the same? Teach, taught, teacher, teaches. Are they the same words? Are they multiple forms? Are they multiple forms of the same word, or are they different words? I never thought about it like that. All right then, shut up. Like, come on. Now, anyway, let me just keep going. So when we don't know, we ask. It's not your job to figure out why the person don't know or why they ask. Wait a minute. It says when we don't know, we ask. It's not your job to figure out why the person don't know or why they ask. Okay, I'm not quite sure what's the context around that statement.
Oh, I think what they're trying to say, I think, is that um, when you don't know something, you ask. So it's not up to the person that you're arguing with probably to have to figure out, why the person that's arguing with you don't know or why they're asking. So the person should be able, who doesn't know, should be able to to um to ask. questions as opposed to, whatever, if that makes sense. When we don't know, we ask. It's not your job, as in the other person, to figure out why the person don't know or why they ask.
Yeah, see, if that's the case, if that's what's meant, fine. But here's the challenge. Many people don't know when they don't know, and so it takes a person who understands, you know, pedagogy and andragogy to be able to dance with that and to be able to work with that, to be able to let somebody know when they don't know. Because if a person don't know that they don't know, then they also don't know to ask. And so it's challenging there, and really good teachers know what I'm saying, and they will operate on that. And this is why it's important to understand the difference between teaching children and adults, pedagogy, andragogy, and the science and methods of both of those techniques and things like that. All right, so it's very important. I'm just going down the list, y'all. What side of the debate of the origins of mathematics could have summed up his attempt to belittle Brother Asar? Um, yeah, I don't know, because evidently the brother didn't understand Asar's information, because um he's talking about mathematical linguistics, which is broad. I mean, it's not. I don't know. That to me, that's one of those things I said. People will try to mention something and use terms out of context and everything to sound relevant and heavy and keep up with a conversation. That's not what Asar was dealing with. That's a vague and umbrella type of thing. Mathematical linguistics, computational linguistics, and all of the different sub disciplines within all of that stuff. That's not, that didn't make any sense. Didn't make any sense. But let me keep on going down. People have their own ego tied into the ideas. Yes, and that's another thing that we should do. We should not. I was academically ready to with information. Don't superimpose your ID, your identity, and glue it to information or claims. Because if a person challenges your information or your claim, or even prevails in proving it wrong, then you're going to take it personal, as if the person proved you wrong or belittled or diminished you, only because you identify with it. So you're going to feel that it's an attack on you and your existence. And that's something that we should always avoid. You should never superimpose your identity on top of a claim or information, especially in scholarship and stuff like that. Don't do that. But that's what a lot of people do. I'll keep going down here. Sanjiata, dude brought a butter knife to a shootout. Asar gave him a crash course. Yes, yeah, but people just need to read. People just need to read. Now, for me, historical comparative linguistics is not my focus. So that's Asar's focus. Asar uses historical comparative linguistics as a tool for the things that he does. That's not my area of focus. But I've learned enough. I've done enough literature review. I've done enough studying to where I have a level of competency to follow the conversation, to ask the right questions about issues, and know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, and know when to run. As Kenny Rogers would say in The Gambler, got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to hold them. What is it? How does it go? Got to know when to hold them, when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, know when to run. Yeah, there you go. In that order, whatever. You got to become a competent. What? You gonna say something?
They're saying you're way behind the chat.
Man, let me catch up. I'm sorry. Let me
He's
catch up.
out here singing Kenny Rogers.
I know. All we need is Dolly Parton to show up. Uh, that's crazy. All right, hold on. I'm way behind. All right, let me go. Let me go. Let me go. I'm trying to rush through this, y'all. If Wujao go to Speaker's Corner, no way he gonna maintain that cool. You be surprised. Everything. Me maintaining cool be getting up under people's skin as well. I don't do that purposely though. All right, so let me keep on going. Malik X, peace. I'm trying to going down. Okay, proof evidence says, please tell me how I can apply math to language. Easy, just like we apply math to driving. You know, you apply math to driving. Every time you drive, if you have a driver's license and you drive a car, you're applying math all the time. When you pull to an intersection, you gotta turn into oncoming traffic. You gotta make a judgment on the speed, the rate, the angle, and so on and so forth of your acceleration of your own car versus their deceleration of their cars and blah blah blah. You know, all kinds of things. So I only say that because math is in a lot of places that we take for granted. So when you ask the question, please tell me how I can apply math to language, what's implied in the way that you ask that question is as if that's hard to believe that math can be applied to language. And I'm here to tell you that math is definitely permeates all throughout language. And after I come through these comments, I'm gonna come back and I'll come back to you and I'm gonna show you some examples. All right, so hold your horses. All right, let me keep on going down. Let's see. They say I'm way behind, way behind. All right, so Chavis came off. Miss Lamb. Yep, see that's Monica Lamb. That's what I was talking about. Man, they working me too hard in 2022. Yep, see that's Monica Lamb, hardest woman in the social media streets. Yep. I seen Monica Lamb, but Monica, see, that's the thing, man. Monica be working so hard, but she also takes time to enjoy herself. Because I saw some pictures. She's at the concert. She's at the party, and she's a veteran, a disabled veteran. So she has a wheelchair and a cane and stuff like that. And you would not think that Monica is sitting in a wheelchair if you didn't see it. I'm talking about, getting down on the dance floor, doing all kinds of things. So anyway, just want to give shout out to Monica Lamb. Got to do it, man. Let's see. I'm gonna keep on going down. Keep on. Okay, Kevin is in the building, but I'm way behind. Kevin probably left by the time I was saying the things I was saying. Let's see. Keep on going. Keep on going down. Is being sound based on your thoughts? Okay, I definitely don't understand that question. And I do understand that sometimes y'all have a conversation in the chat among yourselves. So I'm just going through. There lies the fundamental problem. Most households are not academically astute to train up the youth in that matter. Okay. Proof evidence says, well, Jao, I watched you talk for 2 hours and not present one source and act like you was too big for the question. I don't know what you're talking about. But listen, proof evidence, right? This the thing. So I don't know what you're exactly talking about in this particular comment because as you can see, I kind of speedball down the chat to catch up. But let's do this right here. The link is in the chat. If you have a problem with anything that I have ever said in your entire time knowing of me, about me, or what have you, come on the panel right here, right now, and make your case. do that. I'm here right now, ready. Test me, try me, put up. I'm right here because I don't want to take time to try to figure out what you're saying. So this is an if. If you have a disagreement with anything that I have ever said that you're aware of, bring it to my attention right now. All right? Just that simple. Okay? All right. Because I don't want to accuse you of being a troll or anything like that because I don't even know who you are as of right now. Okay, so we're gonna leave it like that. So come on the panel, or type into the chat. By the time I get to the bottom, you probably type something else because I'm not trying to figure out what you're talking about. Let's see. Let's keep on going. So we got Jehudi. Asar is the final linguistic boss in Woke Debate League. He's talking about how the video games you got the final boss that you reach.
Yeah, and he keeps giving people time, but because I know there are some people that were given 6 months to learn linguistics, comparative linguistics. They can come and debate him when it's been 3, 4 years since, and he also offered this guy to go take some time out to go study and then come back, So yeah, that's crazy. Like,
Would y'all indicate or anyone in the chat, do you all think there can be some discussions on the philosophical concepts found in ancient Egyptian literature? Yes, absolutely, Kafre Ahmos, and that's what I plan on doing in upcoming shows. So keep your fingers on the pulse, keep your ears to the tracks, and you'll hear it when it's coming. All right. So definitely, that's something that I'm interested in doing, but I do also at the same time I'm not naive to the risk of having those kind of discussions with people who are not prepped for those kinds of discussions because there's prerequisite things that will be involved in those kind of discussions. You understand? So, but yes, those are definitely things that I look forward to. So to answer your question, yes. All right, but we got to get past the people not understanding figurative speech. Like if people don't understand figurative speech and that mode and modality of documentation and how ancient people, operated within that modality and things like that, then I mean, having a philosophical discussion about concepts found in Egypt or any other indigenous culture is just going to be kind of like uh, a waste. Okay, let's see. Proof evidence. Now apply it language. Give example. Don't tell me, show me. Apply it language. I don't understand that. But since I don't think people, 'cause a lot of people like to hide behind the keyboard and say what they want to say and stuff like that. But let me share my screen though. I'm gonna share my screen. I'm gonna go into whiteboard mode on y'all. So give me a second. Y'all know when that happens. I said earlier that I'm gonna get off here at 10 o'clock and see what y'all have already made me go 20 minutes beyond what I said I was gonna do already. So let me fire up a blank whiteboard screen and we're gonna switch it up. I'm just getting this ready. So I'm anticipating some people come on the panel. They have a lot to say. Give me a second. I'm trying to find. Give me a Okay. Well, let me. Okay, here's about my whiteboard. All right, there we go. Whiteboard, whiteboard, whiteboard. Can y'all see that? All right, whiteboard. Okay, so first things first, real quick, and I'm gonna be brief because I have videos in the archives that already cover a lot of this stuff already. Um, so first of all, we have to understand that mathematics is the domain of logic. All right, and so with an understanding that mathematics falls in the domain of logic, then I'm going to show just an example, a quick example that we use and we deal with all the time that you may not understand it and how it can relate to logic and math. So let's just say, okay, let me just, and I'm coming strictly off the dome right now too. Let's say, let's take the word teach. Okay, I'm gonna give the word, put the word teach here, and another random word and say car. All right, now these are obviously two distinct words, and I think somebody else came on the panel. Make sure I let them in. Oh, I thought that was proof evidence. Okay, it's brother Asar. Welcome to the panel. But let me just Asar, I'm acknowledge you being on the panel, but I'm just gonna think this example through real quick.
No problem.
So we have two words on the screen: car and teach. Now, now this is obviously two English words. We're gonna stick with English for a second. Now, in English, we're taught in school that we have what's called parts of speech, but they're actually word classes. But we were taught that they're parts of speech, and so we have verbs, we have nouns, we have pronouns, adjectives, prepositions, adverbs, and so on and so forth. Those are quote unquote parts of speech. All right. Now, in syntax, certain parts of speech relate to one another. Certain words that fall in categories relate to one another in a standard way that obeys syntactic rules. Okay? So, just to give an example here, the definite article, the, cannot be placed in front of verbs. So this will be an error to put the teach, but it can be placed in front of what's called substantives, aka nouns, what most people call nouns but are really substantives. Car is a word that represents an entity, whereas teach is a verb that represents an instance of change, which is what a verb is. And so we can express this lawful use of the in front of substantives and its unlawful use in front of verbs such as teach in a mathematical way using logic. Okay? So now I'm not showing any equations or any variables or anything like that. I'm using actual words to show that this is what we do all day, every day. The same way that I said earlier that if you drive a car, you're using math. Whether you realize it or not, you're using mathematics to drive a car. If you have a license in a car and you drive, you're using math, even though you won't call it that. And you may not even think that you're using math in the general sense. But in fact, you are using math. Various forms of math, geometry, all kinds of things in just driving a car. So in speaking, in writing, in utilizing language, we're expressing and using many aspects of mathematics. Okay, semantics First, you got morphology and syntax, which combined is the grammar of a language. You have semantics, pragmatics, all of these areas of analyses on different levels and areas of language deal with logic. And logic is the domain of mathematics. All right, so with that fundamental understanding, then if you go back and ask your question or revisit your question, you'll see that, okay, you'll see why I say your question really doesn't make much sense, or it's not a question that really is a question. It's like, you know, water being wet. Of course it's wet. Like, why are you asking about that? So, hopefully you can understand that now. Now, I'm not trying to get, all uh, deep into a mathematical formula or whatever. I've done that before, and I don't think that I'm going to spend my time to do that again when you can watch videos. So, Emikat, I don't know if you want to throw up some links or repeat some of the links that you put in there where I actually show in a formulaic way how math can be applied to language. All right, I've already done that. And this is, I'm addressing proof evidence as far as what I can see that he or she typed into the chat. Now, if I have your question or whatever wrong, then forgive me. But I think everybody could benefit from what I just said. So, Brother Asar, what's on your mind? What say you? This is this after party after the party.
Peace. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I was, at a location and I'm just leaving now, so I'm in the car. So I was able to catch some of y'all discussion, but I had other meetings and things, so I was going back and forth. Um, so I don't know all of what you've covered and said thus far, but I mean, y'all were there. Y'all got to hear yet again another example of what we have to deal with in this community, and people who like to argue but don't study. And uh, and today was just a common expression of that mindset. And
Yeah.
which is interesting because he has a degree in mathematics. I ain't gonna say yes or no, but he doesn't. When people have degrees in a certain area, their language and attitudes is different. And I don't know if he was just saying that to say that, you know, or not. So I'm not accusing him of anything. It's just his language, his word usage did not indicate to me that he was someone with a rich understanding of mathematics. And I didn't want to stun on him because it's ironic that he would bring up math and linguistics, because I had right next to me, and I have it in the car with me right now, Mathematical Methods in Linguistics, by Barbara H. Partee, Alice Tier Mullen, and Robert E. Wall. I could have just bust that out on him and then went in. But I was just like, it would be a waste of time and energy, because he just didn't get the basics of life, let alone linguistics.
Well, I when I went live for this live stream right now, I just kind of mentioned that I saw your original presentation, and I caught the after party, but I was in the car as well, and I couldn't participate, but I was listening in, so I was listening in, and I wish I could have jumped on the panel, because I know you opened it up for panelists and stuff like that. And yeah, I wish I was able to participate. So I went live now just to kind of give some commentary on my thoughts on the conversation, and how, I just point out a few things that what I see people do is when people don't understand something or haven't put in work and time to gain competency in a specific area, they'll try to prevent it from getting on a level of specificity or specifics or details, and they'll keep it either vague or they'll try to curve it into an area where they do have competency in, even if it's a risk of diversion or changing the topic a little bit, And I see that that's what he was doing in a subtle way. I heard him do it a few times, especially when bringing up, Japanese or whatever, confusing script with language, and then mathematical linguistics when you were being more narrow and more specific. He was trying to keep it on a more broader level, and things like that. So I was just pointing those things out. That's what people do instead of, and all of that just to avoid saying, I really don't have an argument. Asar, what books would you recommend me read? Let me read them and then get back to you. Just humbling out and slowing things down. Instead, people rather put their foot in their mouth. They jump out the window already being adversarial, and then they have to maintain that stance all throughout the conversation, even if you bust them up. They have to go down fighting. And to me, that's the climate that we're in right now. People would rather go down fighting rather than not fight at all. And just
they rather put on the suicide vest and instead of just admit, like people who disagree with me have all clustered together to form an injustice league. And they will disagree with everything at all cost. You can have all the authors in the world you can demonstrate and show everybody. They still will disagree and will get together, put on an 8-hour show just to disagree with me. And some of the arguments and statements I'm not making, I'm showing what the experts, but they'll say lean on the experts. That's why I put, like, all the citations I did today were all books on historical linguistics or how to do historical linguistics. So these weren't just random citations I found. They were real specific. All books having to deal with teaching people how to do historical comparative linguistics.
Mm-hmm.
And so he comes on my program and calls my method fringe and pseudo. Like I just it was at that point I was just like, it's a waste of time trying to argue with this cat.
Well, I got the same. I came to the same conclusion. I did appreciate the fact that he wasn't rowdy, cutting off and this and that. So that was refreshing. So I like to try to look at the positive of it. That's probably the only thing that I could get out of it. That's positive is that it was a conversation at least, and things like that. But the substance of it, I hope the brother marinates on it a while and understands that he's really ignorant on the fundamentals to really have the positions he has. So yeah. But yeah, I just want to follow up because as you were talking, let me just make my screen big again. This is for everybody else in the chat. Just to explain what I have on the screen. So what I've kind of added to what I had on the screen. So I have the word car and I have the word teach. Car is a substantive or noun, as people like to call it, and teach is a verb. Syntactically, substantives can take on an article, whether it's indefinite or definite article in front of it. Verbs cannot. So you'll know the position. So for example, what follows an article can never be a verb. So if we could write this as a mathematical equation where X will be the verb, will be a word that we know we can exclude verbs, the word class called verbs, after an article. Now, in order to utilize a verb after an article, we have to add a derivational suffix to change the word class from a verb over to a substantive or noun. So I can take the word teach, add the derivational suffix er, which is an agentive suffix, changing, bringing on an agent, one who does the verb. In this case, one who teaches is a teacher, and now the newly derived word teacher is now a substantive, and now I can add an article, an indefinite or definite article. I say a teacher or the teacher, and a teacher is one who teaches. And so everything I just said, without using any what people commonly see as math, because people try to limit math to just numbers, like numeral numbers, numerical characters, when math is much more than that. And so everything I just said can be written mathematically with rules and formula. Everything I just said. And so when people ask, well, show me how math can be applied to language or whatever, this and that, it's something that is so common. That's why I always throw back that, hey, if you drive, you're using math. If you write, you're using math. Angles, geometry is part of mathematics. It's part of math. You're learning math. What kind of math? Algebra, geometry, so on and so forth, trigonometry, whatever the case is. You're
even
using math.
even the basic equation statement, like uh, in Egyptian tep, if we say tep equals head, right? Like that's a mathematical equation.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. The copula, as people call the to be verb, is, am, was, or were, but the word is equal
Exactly.
to the equal sign. So if I say,
Exactly.
right, if I say this is that, I've just now said a whole a mathematical equation. This is that.
Exactly. If people don't understand like how why linguistics and computer science and mathematics departments are combining degrees, because in computer science we would just say it was a string. So like if I had a formula like you know uh how do I normally write it? I could put like theta, right? Theta parentheses, and then like A1, A2, or A sub 1, comma A sub 2, comma A sub 3, etc. That would be the string of the word, right? Like it would be a function. So it's like I'm saying f of x, and so x is actually a string, which we would call a word, and then we would have an equal sign after that, and then I would have like in quotations x, or y or w, whatever variable I want to use, excuse me, whatever symbol I want to use to denote meaning, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And and even if, like, for example, with the example you just gave, we can write that in computer code. You know, if definite article is placed, so let's say we're writing some code that a human being has to enter, right? And we want to always detect for grammar or whatnot. We're writing some software that improves grammar. So if definite article is placed in front of verb, then it's an if then statement. Then do this action. If not, continue or whatever what code you would want to write, right? It
Mm-hmm.
or it'll the if da da da, indicate like put blue line under phrase, this string here, or these two cat. Like it's a way that you would write it, but it's all the same. We're talking about rules. Like all languages have a logic to them, and
Yep.
the rules, and all mathematics is finding signs and symbols to represent the underlying rules for the language, the action, or whatever. Because you can always replace, you know, the the actual terms. But if they follow a certain pattern, the mathematical equation is that which represents that pattern. The rules for engagement in that sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm
And
just. Oh,
matter
go
of
ahead.
fact, what's the name discusses that a lot in her text, and what I kept recommending. Um, how to bake pie,
Oh, Chang.
right? Like, yeah. So it's like she's breaking down like how formulas, like, because she has a whole chapter, or at least a whole large section, talking about how mathematics actually makes our job easier by getting rid of that which we don't need and only focusing on that which we do need.
Mm-hmm.
And how we're discovering a particular process, then we create a formula, which is in many respects an algorithm for how to come to the same, or how to solve that problem or a similar problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's that's a whole conversation in of itself.
Well, anyway, yeah, I'm saying, and also what I point out before, you probably didn't hear me earlier. What I point out earlier is that there's a obvious pattern, an overt pattern that's in this social community, circus community, or whatnot, is that the 9 out of 10 people that will have an opposition stance or an adversarial stance against some form of information, 9 times out of 10, they know little to nothing of the subject matter in which they have an opposition, uh, an opposing stance on. So people will come and argue against something, but haven't done little to no work in trying to understand or even be aware of the subject matter. But yet they'll go full force with an argument against. And so earlier I was saying I blame that on the environment, on the environment of these platforms and things, on a high level, because it's very enabling and cultivating type of culture going on now, to where it's become the norm, and it's becoming championed, it's becoming advocated and promoted, where you come to the table already fighting. And and I said earlier that even the language of this social community, the circus community, has become analogous to boxing. Everything is round one, round two, heavyweight, the Floyd Mayweather, the conscious community. Um, get into the ring. You can't survive in 3 minutes in the ring with so and so, and this and that. All that boxing type of lingo and stuff is a reflection of the nature of this environment, where you come to the table already fighting. So much so to the point where people don't even argue over positions. They argue people, like two people will be paired up before they even have a debate topic. Like they'll say, so and so should get in the ring with so and so. Just the people that they don't even say, well, the position, like, and then they pick a topic. It's like two people get pitted against each other, then they pick a topic. Like, who does that? That's backwards. That's ass backwards, as they say. That's heel first. You know, so to me, that's that plays a part in it. But last thing I want to show on my screen is I added something else on the screen from based on what I was saying about the equal sign, the verb, the to be verb is. The to be verb is or is acts like an equation or the equal sign in math notations. And so we know it as an equal sign where something is that's or equals that. And so I have on the screen the sentence "the car is red." Um, and so what that sentence has in it has an article, a definite article at that. It has a substantive. It has the to be verb is and has the adjective red. That's the components of this sentence. And so there's an equation where a specific car, a definite car, because I put the definite article on there, the car is red. So I'm talking about a specific car being red. Now that type of sentence is called an adjectival sentence because it associates an entity with an attribute and it equates them by using the word is. So the car is red. Not that the car and the red are the same thing conceptually, that because we obviously see the word car is not equal to the form. I should say the form car is not equal to the form red. And then the concept of a car and red are different. But I'm making the association by setting up the equation. And this type of association and equation is called an adjectival association. But we say adjectival sentence. The car is red. Or the car is beautiful. Or the car is fire. The car is hot. Whatever I choose to put on the other side of that is still an adjectival sentence. And again, we could represent these things as mathematical equations. But go ahead, what are you saying?
No, I was just saying, note that when I was talking about like tep means or is head, I wasn't speaking in terms of the sentence structure in Egyptian. I'm giving
Yeah.
the meaning. Like the word tep means head.
Yeah. Yep.
Like and if I was to translate that into an equation, like I would put tep equals head.
Yeah.
Like it's a simple statement in an equation or a statement of fact, right? And
Mm-hmm.
and what you're defining is the value of that particular string,
Mm-hmm.
and that itself is a simple, like that's the simplest equation you can do is a equal. So that it's no different than me writing x equals y.
Right.
You get
Right.
what I'm saying? Like because what you're doing is when something equals something, you're defining it as such. You're giving it its value. You're giving it its purpose, its character. It's a you're again you're defining what it is. So if I say x is y, I'm given the meaning. So when something means something, that's a simple equation. That's the most basic equation you can have in mathematics.
Yeah. But you know what's interesting is man, I lost my thought when you said x equals y. Oh, right, x equals so x equaling y, the concept match. So
Yeah.
here's where people fall off. Okay, so if if we have an equation x equals y, or no, let's say a equals b, because this the form that a lot of people are familiar with. So if a equals b and b equals c, then
Hmm.
a also equals c. Trans Transivicity. uh, a also equals c. So here's the thing: that mathematical formula is key to translations because if and I always use the word elephant. if the Spanish, and I'm only going by the form, separating the form from the meaning. So if the form elefante in sound equals to the concept of this large gray animal with a snout and ivory tusk, and then I say in Luo the word liech equals that same concept, and then in Kiswahili Ndovu equals that same concept. I'm setting up a 3-to-1 ratio, equivalency. Those three forms equal the same concept. So we got A equals B. So A will be the form, B will be the concept. And then C will be the form equals B, the concept. And then D equals B. So A equals B, C equals B, and D equals B. Therefore, A, C, and D all equals B and to each other. The same way, if it was just a straight, you know, black and white like that, and people don't understand, don't tend to get that because of the different way that words look or different ways that words sound. So even in what you were showing earlier in comparative linguistics, what people were having a problem, and I'm glad that you showed it the way you showed it earlier with the numbers. Like that was really good. I don't know if you've done that before, but where you had the comparative chart table, but prior to you showing the consonant table, you showed the equivalent with just numbers, or you had it the other way around. I forgot which one you showed first, but I don't know if Asar's still there. Asar still there? We done lost Asar. His ghost is still here, but I don't think he's still tuned in. But
Numbers
anyway,
first.
so if you check out
Yeah.
Asar's presentation, um, okay, there you
Testing.
go.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
could you hear me?
Yeah, I heard you. I was speaking, but I guess you couldn't hear me. But
Oh, okay, okay.
yeah, I was just saying that I showed the one with the variables as numbers first, and
Mm-hmm.
then the one that everyone was familiar with. But the point, well, one of the
Yeah.
major points
Mm-hmm.
is showing that regardless to what symbol we use, we're always looking for the corresponding patterns, and that's ultimately what matters.
Mm-hmm. And
I'm
that's
sorry,
and
go
that's
ahead.
what I'm saying. That's no. I'm saying that's what I said. That was good. I'm glad you did that. Um, that way because I think Chavis in the chat he was like, "Yeah, that was good." I think Chavis had like a eureka moment.
Was that the watermelons or the trying to see? I forget because I was in and out of that part, particular part of
No,
discussion.
no, no, not the watermelon one. That was good too, but no, the comparison charts of the consonant sequence, right? The sound correspondences. He first showed numbers, so he had like number 2, 12, or 17 representing the consonants, and then in Chicam versus Yoruba or whatever, I think, or Chiluba, and
It was Yoruba, and what I did was all I did was go down the regular English alphabet, right?
mhm.
With the exception of I included the uppercase for the transliteration system we use, right? And so A equals 1, capital A equals 2,
Mhm.
B
Right.
equals 3, and just going down the list until I was at 30 something. So I wanted to keep it simple and not use, and if I wanted to go further, for example, like the Yoruba language has the labiovelar, the voice labiovelar sound, "b," which we don't have in English, right? And so I would have just put, the matching is arbitrary. So I went to like 34. And if I wanted to represent that sound, I would make that number 35, right?
Mhm. Right.
And so all I did is I substituted the letters in both ancient Egyptian and in Yoruba with the corresponding numbers.
Right.
that they represent, and using letters that are not controversial in anybody's phonological book or dictionary. T was T and N was N is a Nancy, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I use the American transcription for I, because the Germans use J, um, for the reed leaf glyph, and I just put the numbers, the string of numbers together, and then gave the definition for what the word is supposed to represent, and
Now what's
showing. I'm
mm.
sorry.
No, no, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
No, and just showing in my normal fashion how I do in tables that regardless if we use IPA symbols or if we use the regular Latin or if we use numbers or if I, had enough emojis, I could have used emojis. All that matters is that I was consistent and the initial premises. So that's that one, that A equals one, capital A equals two. Those are the premises,
Mm-hmm.
and I stick to that. That's where the logic comes in. That no matter what, I've already defined these symbols as such, and now I'm going into my arguments. And does my conclusion, are my is my conclusion a result or a consequence of the premises, right?
Right.
And that's how you show the logical process. And so, and then in the next slide, I just showed it in the regular, using the regular Latin and IPA. Luckily, all of the symbol is just a normal part of the IPA, and nothing extravagant to where I would be confused. But I could do that on a more elaborate sounds and do the same thing, and we would be right back where we were.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That see that and I made a comment in the chat when you did that, and I just gave a warning to people. I said these are the kind of things that tend to go over people's heads. So I was telling the chat like, hey, chill, pay attention first before creating all these conversations in the chat, because that's really really important for people to get it. It's like so simple that people think it's not worthy to pay attention to, but it's critical at the same time. It's simple and critical. That needs to be shown. But I'm glad that you showed it that way, because once people do get and understand it, if they can look at your example of that and get that, then they can broaden it to the concept of translations of meaning, you know, of like how words or signs are broken up into its form, whether it's written or spoken, and then its meaning or the concept behind or linked to it, and how we're matching concepts irregardless of their forms when we're doing translations. Now, comparative linguistics takes it further and are looking for regular sound and meaning correspondences to answer other questions. So it's taking it further than just linking the form and the meaning and trying to translate between two or more languages, which is to bring meaning from a source language into a target language. Comparative linguistics goes further and tries to develop or pull out the patterns, the regular patterns, to be able to make these inferences or assertions that two or more languages can come from the same parent, after a whole bunch of other process of elimination and blah, blah, blah. So it all makes sense, going back to the ability to understand these substitutions of symbols for other things. I can substitute numbers for, as a matter of fact, the Mark Vigas dictionary or the Gardner codes somewhat serves this purpose, where every pictorial hieroglyph has an equivalent Gardner code. So we can actually write an Egyptian word with just the Gardner codes. if we wanted to.
Right, and that's very clear because you could literally, instead of, like you said, nobody has time to actually draw out all the symbols when they're discussing the ancient Egyptian language. So even instead of somebody saying a vulture and then giving the next glyph and whatnot, they could just say G1, and somebody understands that it's this particular bird and not the other particular bird. It's actually a vulture and not just any other vulture. Like I think the one for Mook, but it's actually the G1 vulture in that sense. So it should make sense for anybody to understand that it doesn't matter what symbol you have, as long as those symbols there is a standard and then agreed what the symbols represent, in that particular discussion, then it shouldn't even be an argument.
Matter of fact, it's a lot easier for someone such as Jawu and I to understand this phenomenon because we deal with it in real life, in practical terms, in terms of software development.
Yeah,
Now,
computers.
even us writing uh, like our text, both of us use the what's the glyph software?
J
Um,
Sesh.
Jason?
JSesh, right?
Yeah.
And when we're typing in, we can't put the literal hire some other code. And so that code, once you press enter in the line, like you put a string together of a word, then it appears as the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. And that's exactly what we do, whether it's IPA or not. We can
Right.
substitute it all. Like, if I wanted to write Kemet in JSesh code,
Why
all
you
it
say it?
is,
I'm gonna put it on the screen. Why you say it?
alrighty. Um,
No, I'm
all I
saying
need to put
why you
in,
saying I'm gonna do it on the screen.
alrighty. Are you doing it or are you right now? Okay. So I would just to write the word Kemet in JSesh, I would simply type in capital I and
Well,
then
no, I'm
I6. I'm sorry.
okay. Go ahead. No, yeah. I said as you said, I'm doing the vulture. I'm just showing the equivalence of the vulture, not the whole word Kemet or anything. I'm doing the
Oh,
vulture
okay.
one, just so people can follow what you were saying before. But
Yeah.
I'm only doing one glyph so people could get it.
All right. And that would I forgot what that was in the JSesh off the top of my head.
Oh, it's
Um, yes, it's not
G1.
G1, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but as
Uh,
far as Kemet is concerned, it would just be I6, capital I6, dash G17, and then dash X, capital X, and then two, no, X1, capital X1, and then dash 049 for the word Kemet. All right. Now, so you have something different.
No,
So yeah. So go ahead.
well, yeah, as I say, I wasn't putting the word Kemet, what you were saying, on the screen. I was just doing one glyph to show what you were saying, how
Okay.
how everything on the screen right now is equal to each other. You
Yeah.
got the vulture itself, which is in pictorial form, the Gardner code G1, which equals the capital A in manual decodage, and then the diacritic looking three for the diacritic transliteration system. So
And if you was to
so
put it in IPA, it would be the capital R with the nasal
okay,
tilde over it. You
let me
understand
do
that?
that. Yeah, let me do that. That's the uvular trill, right?
Yeah, the nasalizer volar trail.
Let me find that because my nasal eyes. You trying
Yeah,
to
I have to do it in Word. I don't think there's. I don't think you're going to find like in the IPA symbols itself the nasalized velar trill. It's just one of those. You have to find that particular capital R, and then you would have to put the wavy line diacritic over it. And I don't know what program you're using and how you would do it in that program. But it,
here it is right here. I gotta make it bigger. Let me make it 100 just so people could see it. This is it right here. So if I put
yeah,
it all side by side, so all of these are equal to one another right here on the
yeah,
screen. So if people can't get this, or they should take a screenshot of this or whatever, and then what do you call it? Reverse engineer. So the vulture is the glyph itself. That's the graph. So that's the pictorial form of uh, of the hieroglyphs, right? It equals the Gardner code G1, which equals the manual decoder's transliteration system, a capital A, which is case sensitive, and then the diacritic transliteration script system, which is well, I call it a diacritic 3 because it looks like the number 3,
mhm,
which equals the IPA, which represents the sound of a nasalized uvular trill. And there you go. So now this is just one glyph. So now if I were to step forward and do a word like what you were saying, Asar, you were saying um the word. Let's go ahead and do the one you said. Might as well. Let's do what
Give
you
it.
were using the word. Kemet. Okay, so let's
Yeah,
move this up. Let's do the word Kemet. Okay, so give me the Gardner codes for what you
it,
were how you were spelling it.
it's I6,
Okay, so we got I6.
and then we have. Are you putting it in JSesh or are you just gonna?
Yeah, I'm doing a
Okay,
JSS first.
yeah. So it would be I6, and then dash G 17,
Okay.
and then dash capital X or X2. I'm sorry, X1
Mm-hmm.
for the T sound, and I guess the colon or semicolon, whatever it is, and then 049.
All right. Okay, so let me get this on the screen so everybody can see it. Um, very quickly here. Oops, where'd my screen go? My screen lost my screen. All right, here we go. Y'all be patient with me. All right, here we go. Make it big. All right, so bam, there is the traditional looking word right there.
Hmm.
So now if I take the whole word, now this one, the first one was a single glyph. So now if I do the same thing that I did on the first line with this full word, I'm gonna write the whole Gardner string for it. So it was I6 plus G17. I'm gonna use dash if
Hmm.
anybody wanted to look it up in Vigus. So I6 dash G17 dash X1 dash 049. Now I'm not putting a colon 049 because that's specific to JShash. I'm just putting the dash so people could see what the Gardner code is, etc. So that's this. So this word in the glyph format, the pictorial format, is equivalent to this string right here. And then if we want to do the same thing, so now I gotta transliterate it. And the manual decoder's way of transliterating it would be KMT. Simple as that. And then the diacritic way of transliterating it will look pretty much identical, because it's nothing really different or fancy about this particular one. So they look alike. And then if I were to do the phonetic value of that, I would have to let's see, put this equal
And
sign
you
down
just have to
here,
put them in.
slashes or square slashes actually,
Yeah,
and put KMT just like that. And there you have it. Up, forgot the equal sign in between here. We're gonna make this complete for y'all. Equal sign between all of this. So there you have it. So take your pick. So we can represent the word Kemet visually like this in the glyphs. We could represent it as a Gardner string like that. We could represent it in manual decodage. We could represent it through diacritic transliteration or phonetically, minus the vowel sounds, obviously. And there you have it. So there you go. Now, but here's what's interesting is because people like until we point this out that there's a link between what we just showed and then what you were just talking about before, like nobody's gonna put your table of the that you show earlier with this on their own, really. Like this has to be pointed out that this is the same underlying phenomena of substituting symbols on a regular basis and a consistent basis, which form premises, which creates this whole logic flow and the logic aspect of how language works. And
and we're
and
really
and
going
in
to
these
lose our
exercises,
mind once we try to figure out what the Java code is for JSHES for each one of those symbols, and then the very computer strings, just the zeros and one combination for
yeah,
those representations. Like it's
exactly.
layers, but it's all fundamentally the same uh, underlying logic and premise. That's what I'm saying. Like it's really laughable when people try to argue that one doesn't have any experience in linguistics. Like
Mm-hmm.
I do what is called applied linguistics. I apply it, and my primary languages are formal languages. You know, as I
Mm-hmm.
broke down into what's the name, there's formal languages and then there's natural languages. And in modern computing systems, formal languages and natural languages meet for different programs. So anytime you translate something in Google Translate, or you do a voice recognition software, or you use stuff like Grammarly or Word, Microsoft Word, and it's checking your spelling and your grammar. These are all computer scientists who understand natural language
Right.
and translate that into code. And we take aspects of natural language, formalize it, and create code to bring images and sound and music and YouTube and Negroes acting funny on live to you.
Right. Right. Right.
You know, that's what we do. It's language. It's all linguistics. That's why I always show that combination. Because what I'm a part of is what we call the cognitive sciences. This is a combination of philosophy, linguistics, computer science, especially in artificial intelligence, um, mathematics, and psychology. Like you can, there's whole three programs now. And
Man,
so
if
if people
people
don't
can't
understand
get
how
this,
these relate, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, I was saying if people can't get this, what I'm hopefully people everybody can still see this on the screen, and they can take a screenshot when they can or whatever the case is. Um, then I don't, people, this should, understanding this will eliminate the argument that Dr. Cambone is ultimately trying to have, where he's arguing, basically his argument can be interpreted as he doesn't think that the hieroglyphic writing system has been deciphered. I mean, when you really think about it, if you
And when he
if you
first tried to he when he first tried to bring that to my attention, and that's exactly what I tried to argue. That's the exact point I brought up to him. I'm like, if that's your argument, then you argue that it hasn't been deciphered. Well, if it has been deciphered, then what the hell are you talking about? That's why, like, I asked him, where have they done this? Can you provide proof and evidence from any kind of scholars who have done this with any kind of other dead language that is using your method? Every single time someone brings that up to him, he has to go. And it's ironic that when I was reading Mboli's retelling of his engagement with Cambone at that conference, as soon as Mboli said that, you're the only person in the universe who thinks this, no one else does this anywhere in linguistics. And, all of a sudden he didn't want to engage anymore. He did the same thing with me once I asked him that question. Like, once you ask him for proof, well, uh, show me at least 5 sources that make your argument, and show me at least one who has successfully applied the method and that it is accepted by linguists around the world. Like, if you
right,
pose that question, he's not going to reply. He's going to try to change the subject and tell you ain't got a PhD in linguistics, and you ain't shit. And that's how it goes. But it's like, once you ask for proof, people start people start dancing. As they just moonwalking. They crumping nowadays, trying to avoid the questions.
oh man, pop, lock, and drop it. Oh man, no, it's true, but that's what it sounds to me. Essentially, he's arguing without arguing that the hieroglyphic writing system has not been deciphered. And to me that's alarming. That's not that's a different thing, because he he relies heavily on the fact that he has a PhD in linguistics. He has weaponized his own achievement to diminish everybody else. Because even in what you shared today, the response that he gave to the Team Osiris that you shared on the screen, in one of his sentences, he says, because Imhotep and Mboli are not linguists, they blah, 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 blah. And so when people articulate that way, they're weaponizing their own achievement to diminish without taking a step further and doing a follow up, following through with the statement. They're just using the statement. And that's alarming to me, because that's some basic fundamental stuff that he's missing. And I don't know how much he paid for his schooling or PhD and stuff like that, but my first mind would be like, hey, you need to get your money back,
Yeah,
because
that's
these are
that's
these
why
are
I
these are
always
basic.
that's why I always bring up Obinga. I love it. That's the first thing they try to do. Everyone who is in opposition to my position, and as far as Mboli, they like to point out that neither Mboli or I have either a master's or a PhD in linguistics. And when I point
Hmm.
out that Theophilo Benga doesn't, or Sheikh Ante Joe, or Christopher Aaron, or Greenberg, or Roger Blinch,
Yep.
right? They get in their feelings, like Shakanduga Kimmy. Like, he's one of the slowest people I've ever encountered on the internet. I swear he is. But he he has been doing shows lately, And of course, my name every week someone's doing a show about me. So I just got used to it. And I'm just internet famous because everybody can't accept my arguments. But he's really trying to argue with me that Theophilo Binger has a PhD in linguistics, and he's talking about it says so on the San Francisco website. I'm like, I'm familiar with that website. It does not say he has a degree in linguistics. What it does, it doesn't show his undergraduate degree. It shows his three masters, one in education, one in philosophy, and one in history. And then it goes on to say he has uh, advanced studies in linguistics, Egyptology, history, da 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 da. It's going to be hard for you to find online what his actual uh, degree in his PhD is, but it's in history, and he did his PhD dissertation on the Kingdom of Congo. Right, it was not a comparative linguistic, uh, PhD, just like Cambone's PhD wasn't in comparative linguistics. It was a synchronic analysis of uh, the doubling of verbs to make nouns in Akan.
Wasn't it C1 position in something? Or that was a
No,
master's?
that was his master's. His
All right.
master's was trying to establish a relationship based on the first consonant in um, in the Yoruba and Akan languages for the basic vocabulary.
Hmm. Well, listen, these are some basic things, and I was saying earlier too. You probably missed this part. I was saying that most time, and this is just a human. This is a human thing. This not a racial thing or whatever. This is a human thing. Is that when we don't know that we don't know something, then we also don't know to ask or to ask a question or whatever the case is. When we don't know that we don't know, and I was saying that sometimes it's a challenge for people who are on the other side of that as teachers, educators. We have to recognize when a person doesn't know that they don't know. And then we have to fill it in, or what you call it, we have to jumpstart the engine for them because they're not going to do it on their own. They don't know better. And when we do it, it's a challenge because if that person has a sensitive ego or is sensitive, and that's the way that they're built or whatever, they're gonna see it as the person being condescending or an elitist or something like that, and they'll get very defensive, you know. And I was saying that earlier that that's one of the challenges that we have, that me personally I have, that I think about when I realize that another person doesn't know that they don't know, or they don't know enough to know that they're wrong. I have to try to dance around in my head to try to figure out, okay, how can I let this person know that they don't know, just to let them know that what they're asking me or trying to tell me is wrong. Like they don't even know how wrong they are because they don't know that they don't know. You
You
know what I'm
just cut
saying?
them off and end the discussion. That's what you do. Like when if a person who is genuine and they don't know, like they're not going to be too argumentative with you. Brother who got on today, he admits he knows mystics, but insists on arguing. And then
Yeah,
he's
that's a
messing
problem.
up. Like part of the issue with pseudoscience is that they misuse terms and use them out of context. So he's talking about the material culture and the language and the. I'm like, language has no material culture. Language is an idea. Ideas do not be embedded in DNA. It's not embedded in the bone structure unless they are using writing, and the writing is on the material culture. there's no way that you can detect what language a society used or was speaking. There's no way to look at some bones and tell by its density or its limb ratios what language they spoke, what political party they belong
No,
to.
there's no DNA for the Nation of Islam membership.
None.
You're not going to DNA sample somebody and say, hey, he's a member of the Nation of Islam.
There's not going to be any haplogroup sequence that's going to tell you if they voted for Barack Obama, or Trump, enjoyed Wu-Tang Clan, um, or if they like the movie Transformers. It's just not going to happen. And that's how a lot of these people who
Right.
don't understand, research methods and evidence and language, don't understand why you can't use, for example, archaeology and linguistics together, in the sense that, you know, uh, because there is some archaeological evidence somewhere, that means that corresponds to some linguistic family and the like. It doesn't work
Yeah.
that way unless the artifact has the language on it,
Right. Right. Right.
and then that doesn't mean anything, because it could have transferred, um like we say car in English. What's the Spanish folks, they say auto boost or whatever. Uh, they don't say car. They use, what's the phrase they use for those who speak Spanish?
Look, Caro.
No, it's or even like, but I guess no, I think it's like auto boost. What is it? I don't know. I ain't took Spanish since the civil rights movement. But they may call it something else, even if a native person called it something. A
Oh,
material culture can be
coche. Co-
transferred.
coche.
Like it
Co-
was something else. Someone saying caro. No,
coche. El
zapato is
coche.
shoes.
El coche is El coche is automobile, like car. Coche. I guess it comes from coach, from carriage, and coach from
Yeah,
horses. Coche. Yeah.
they ain't just making
Car
up stuff now.
Caro.
Friole. Uh,
Caro.
anyway, uh,
Oh, automobile. Nah, but that's still close to automobile. But yeah, I mean, I get you the point. Um, that that people made. I'm saying I made that point earlier though, as far as um that's what we're facing. The fact that people don't know that they don't know, and on their end, if they have good character and they're academically raised correctly, then they know when to exercise humbleness, when to know when to fold them, know when to hold them, know when to walk away, know when to run. But in these internet streets, nobody has that discipline at all. Nobody's been raised academically correctly to recognize that. So you have people coming to the table already on 10, trying to figuratively fight. They want to argue and they want to go down swinging. They will be losing an argument, but they'll still try to go down swinging no matter what.
I'm telling you, they're wearing suicide vests, and there was
With
not to
bombs.
engage you at all. They just came to blow up everybody, including themselves, because they have nothing to live for. They think that if they win, uh, or they become a martyr in an internet debate, that they will be greeted in heaven with 70 virgins. And this is exactly what the young man did today on the program.
That's what I'm saying. And like I said, I'm trying to see the point out, the good thing that the conversation itself was engaged um, better, the mechanics of the conversation, but the substance is the same old. Where at the end he even tried to say, okay, fringe, and then I forgot what word he used, but he was like your he was basically saying your whack methodology or something. He didn't use the word whack though, but it was whatever, fringe and stuff like that. And I heard you point out to him like, wait a minute, this is the consensus. This is the method. Like, what method can you use as an equivalent? What method is used to determine parenthood, biological parenthood? It's through genetics, DNA sequencing. You're not going to look at somebody and definitively walk away knowing the parentage of a child, relationship between parents and children. You're not going to do that, because if the courts could do that, then man, we'd be in trouble if they were doing that in court, in child support cases and paternity cases and stuff like that, custody cases and all that kind of stuff. So to establish the relationship between languages to each other and to its parent is done by the historical comparative method, then that's that. So was that used to establish what you think of, and you're coming to the table with this Niger Congo, Khoisan, Nilo-Saharan, and Afro-Asiatic? Was that done, yes or no? If no, then humble out, slow down, pump your brakes, and take a seat. That's it. But this climate produces people that will go out swinging, like you said, the suicide vest. So people come to the table like, nah, I don't need any of that. I'm just gonna blow up everything. No matter what you say, I'm gonna blow it up. I got my grenades. I got my rocket launchers. I got my C4 or C whatever, C20, whatever they call it. There you go. So yeah. But listen, it's 11:36, man. I was supposed to end this an hour and a half ago. That's crazy. Emmy Cat let me stay on too long. Blame Emmy Cat. That's what Adam did. Adam blamed the woman, right? It was Eve. She gave it to me. And I did eat.
I should do a show on that. Was Adam snitching? Is should we count Adam as a snitch?
He's the first snitch, the first human snitch.
The first snitch in history.
You got the first murderer, which is Cain.
Uh-huh.
And then we got the first snitch, Adam. The woman you gave me, she did give, and I did eat. Yeah, man. All right, so I'm out of here. So listen, I'm trying to see who's in the chat. Everybody had the opportunity to come on. I see we got Brother Sean in the building. Aziz gonna have a new name next week. He's African Renaissance this week. He's gonna be something else. Ramza. But hopefully everybody, I just to kind of recap real quick, summarize. I just want to give my commentary because I couldn't get on the panel earlier of what I was hearing. And the presentation itself, and then the after party where the brother came on, and he basically, I tried to listen without knowing what I know, and I see how these conversations go, right? These people maybe use certain words and may be able to articulate themselves, and then if they just so happen to have a degree in something, then that has weight in the circus community, him having a degree in mathematics. I can see how the conversations will linger because of stuff like that. But knowing what I know, it's really a shutdown. Like the brother had nothing coming at all. And he didn't understand some of the basic fundamentals to even have the arguments and claims that he was making. That he attempted to make, because they weren't really put together very well, even with what he was saying. But I'm saying, so anyway, I just wanted to come on and kind of give my commentary on that, and hopefully we have to popularize. We have to make normal again reading. People need to read, man. Read and study. Don't be so quick to argue and be adversarial. And I get it though, because right now that's where the money's at. That's where the popularity's at. That's where the likes at. The YouTube subscriptions and likes, and that's where all that stuff is, and that's what's running these social platforms now. I get it. The more controversial you are, and this and that, man. But it's sad. There's a consequence to it, and we're arguing over the same stuff. This is 2012 type of conversation. For real. The phoneme, difference between a phoneme and a phone. The mapping of a transliteration, an orthographic system to a phonological system. Like that mapping right there. These are basic things, and people gotta catch up. I'm tired of hearing these same old conversations. But MK, you go.
I was just gonna say, I think it's just because y'all are just too patient with this kind of people. Because, like I said before, if I had my own channel and those people came on my channel like that, you wouldn't even last like 2 seconds. Like, even that guy that came on Asar's channel, like he started speaking right off the bat. He was wrong. Like he was just wrong. Like Asar had to stop him and be like, "That's not what I said." And you clearly see that this guy doesn't even know. He's coming to argue with somebody whose work he hasn't read, whose arguments he doesn't understand. Like for me, I would just have kick you out of my panel. Like if you're gonna come and prepare yourself to start arguing with something that you think I said, then you better have actually understood what I said clearly. At least from that point, it gets whatever. But I think like y'all are very patient with this kind of people, which is a good thing because me growing up where I grew up, they didn't have that kind of patience with us, even though we were even younger at that point, even just in the schooling system, there wasn't that amount of patience given to us, obviously with reasons, because it's not just about you, it's about everybody else around you. Like you're in a classroom setting, and obviously education is not free. So one person can't waste everybody else's time. So there wasn't that amount of patience given to us even at a younger age where you need that amount of patience. So I do not even know how I would have that kind of patience with grown-ups on my kind of channel. But I appreciate that you guys are very patient, but sometimes I think you are just too patient.
That's really me being too patient. But what's crazy is there's a rhyme and reason to my patience, because within my infinite patientism, I have limits, and when people hit the limits, I clamp down really hard, and even that's not good enough. So I'm patient, but then within my range of patience, when I come down, I come down. I really do. And we see that, people can't handle that. I mean, I see it. People can't even handle that. So I'm like, it's an issue where you damned if you do, damned if you don't. My patientism. But like, well, Jao, what religion do you adhere to? Patientism. That's my new religion, patientism. Who's your God? Tolerance. I worship the God tolerance in my religion, patientism. Oh man. But no, I have patience. If I have time, if I don't have time, listen, you're not gonna waste my time though. I'm telling you, if I don't have time, I don't have time. I will cut straight to it. I try to shoot it straight anyway. But see, there's a technique though, and I'm just gonna share this with everybody in case you don't already do it. But do this when you have conversations with people, and it becomes a Q&A type of thing where you're volley back and forth. You're asking questions and whatnot. If you're asked a question, remember this: answer the question direct and as short as possible first, then elaborate. So even though people like to force you to do a yes or no answer, like they ask you a question, be like, just answer the question yes or no, brother. um, people do that because they don't have patience, and they have an agenda behind whatever question they're asking you. They really don't want to know the answer. They just want a response. And there's a difference between an answer and a response, really. But anyway, that's a whole nother conversation. But answer the question short and concise. So just answer the question, bam, and then elaborate. Now, if you find yourself answering the question short, but you're not allowed to elaborate, then you got to switch up. And so I'm saying that to say, because a lot of times I do that, and when I'm in an environment where people don't allow the elaboration, then I switch up, and I'll get real strategic and clever on somebody in a heartbeat, and people don't like that. People can't handle it. And y'all may have seen me do it on different platforms. I know on the Pseudo Killers channel, um, or Real Black Atheist channel, whatever the case is, and things like that. When I'm in a situation where uh, three or more people are on the same page, on a different page than me, but they themselves on the same page, here's what has to happen, right? I'm a single person. I mean, I'm an individual. And then I'm talking to 5 other people. So it's 6 of us all together. When 5 people are in agreement, and they're in agreement among themselves, but they disagree with me, then what I have to do, I have to change up my communication strategy, because now I have to wait 5 times the time for me to speak. So when person 1 speaks, I got to remember what they say. Then I got to allow person number 2 to speak, and number 3, number 4, number 5, before it comes back around to me. But when it comes back around to me, I am only allowed the equal amount of time of a single person, and not times 5. So if each person was given 5 minutes to speak, and I got to listen to 5 people, that's 25 minutes. I should get 25 minutes to speak straight. But that never happens. I only get 5 minutes like everybody else. So I can't address 5 people who spent 5 minutes each in my single 5 minutes. So, and I'm only sharing this as advice to y'all, recommendation. When you find yourself in those situations, you have to change up, and you have to be able to adapt and adjust. And so I'm saying, me, if y'all been around me enough, you see when I adjust and I adapt to those kind of things, people don't like it, because I shoot it straight. I get straight to the point and be like, nope, this, that, and the third. They be like, huh? I'm like, well, listen, you all not trying to learn. You're not trying to learn or let me explain stuff, so I'm gonna shoot it to you straight. And that's really no good. That's why I don't do that anymore. People not really interested in learning. They just want to gossip and take up time to fill content of YouTube channels and stuff like that. So anyway, but with that, listen, it's late right now. I want you all to all together, all 30 of y'all who are watching right now, in the chat. I want to see everybody in the chat. Everybody in the chat, help to close out today and help me wish Sonette Emiket a happy birthday. Today is Emiket's birthday, and she spent this amount of time with us here and y'all on her birthday. She took some time out, so give her her flowers for her birthday and help me wish her a happy birthday today. Emiket is what? How old are you? About 22 now? Turned 22.
Yes, 22 going on 19.
But yeah, everybody wish her a happy birthday. If you friends with her on Facebook, if you didn't know it was her birthday, give her a shout out on the birthday. But yeah, happy birthday, happy solar return. All the good things that people say. They say happy solar return, happy New Year, happy birthday, happy Earth Day. They spell it all different. We real creative when it comes to stuff like that. But all right, anyway, so with that, I'm gonna say definitely Shimon Hotep, and be back live, man. But listen, you all keep up the good work that you're doing, and we got to combat the ignorance out here, combat the silliness, the goofy, and all that good stuff. So, I'm gonna say I am out, and Shimon Hotep. See y'all next time.
To say that when you go to chemist school, you became more alert. You may wake up, your spirit wake up, and you became a more human being. That's your character is built in a school. When you study what we call classical studies, we must know Netcher. You see, maybe in the future we need to know some Meroitic too. We need to know Netcher. So the most achievement in Kemet for me is education. The way they think, they build, and they practice their education is very unique in history. Without education, I believe there will be no Kemet.